997, 998, 999, 1000. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. I guess that means it's time for this week's video. Let's go. This week, we're taking a serious look at the 3 areas your assessment is going to be marked on. First is composition. This means the layout, what's in the image and where it is on the page. You'll get some credit just for choosing the right object, something that isn't too flat, looks interesting, is challenging but not so challenging that you can't draw it. You'll get a bit more credit if once you've selected this you fill the page effectively, so not too big, not too small, and also think about the balance, so there's not a big white space on one side of the page. And you'll get full credit for your composition if the arrangement is interesting, so some overlapping, some objects in the foreground, some in the background, perhaps a variety of heights, and you'll consider what you do with the background, maybe adding some negative space. The next area that gets marked is the accuracy of your drawing. You'll get some credit if the object is recognisable. If the proportions of the object are accurate, you get some more credit. If you've taken the time to look and add detail, that'll get you some more marks. Looking at even more intricate details, like the textures on the object, the patterns on the object, that'll get you some more credit if you add those. And to get full credit here, you'll add the detail, the texture and the pattern, but you'll do it exceptionally well. It'll be completely accurate and it will show you look really, really carefully at the object you're drawing. Finally, you'll get marks for how you've used tone. If you've added some shadows to the drawing, that'll get you some credit. If you've got a range of tones, so some lights, some darks, and in between, and it starts to give you a 3D effect, you'll get some more marks. If you've added it with the side of pencil, so it's nice and smooth, it looks neat, that'll get you extra credit. If the tones match the object, which is much harder than it sounds, then you'll get quite a lot of credit there. Checking that things are in the right places by looking at the object. And to get full credit here, the difficult skill is to gradually blend all different tones, so nothing changes suddenly from light to dark, it goes gradually between the different tones. Quick look at some examples, what they do well, and what they could maybe improve on as well. This has got accurately drawn shapes, it's got an interesting composition, fills the space, but no tone, so this one looks very flat. The shape here is not quite as accurate, neither are the proportions, but they have used the page well, and by adding some tone, we're starting to get a 3D effect. Now we've got a range of tones, and they're pretty well blended, so this is looking 3-dimensional, but it's not the most interesting object, and the amount of white space at the bottom does mean it's not the best composition either. This one's well drawn, the shape's very good, and they've added some detail which is definitely picking up marks, but again, with the composition, there's a lot of white space left, and maybe they could have thought about doing something with this. A few different objects here, making the composition pretty interesting, and they haven't been afraid to use some dark tones. But although this has quite a lot of tone on it, I think it looks a bit flat because maybe these tones aren't quite in the right places. An even more complex arrangement here, very ambitious, very interesting, and it has got a range of tones. Unfortunately the proportions aren't quite right here, so this one loses marks there. Another good composition, and some very accurately drawn shapes. Unfortunately, even though this has quite a good range of tones, because the outlines are so bold, it looks a little flat, almost cartoony. Another ambitious arrangement here, there's lots going on. The shapes are well drawn, the proportions are very good, and there is a range of tones. To boost that mark, these tones though could be blended. This one here does blend its tones very successfully, some very smooth transitions. Again, this is another one though where perhaps the outlines are too bold, and it looks a bit flatter than it would do if they weren't. Another one that's well drawn. The proportions are good, the shapes are accurate, and the tones are really well blended. Perhaps though they could have some darker tones in there that can really emphasise the dark shadows and make it a bit more 3-dimensional. And here's one from an earlier video. The shape's pretty accurate, we've got some dark tones in places for emphasis, and we've used the negative space really well. Although perhaps maybe the tones could blend a little bit better. And actually, I did go back and do a bit more blending on this one, and you can see the difference it makes. It looks a little more realistic and shows that little bit extra skill level. This one pretty much has it all. You can tell they look very closely at the objects. It's accurate with the shapes, the proportions are good, the blending of the tones is there, And there's a real range of tones as well, from light to dark. And if you want to take inspiration from something really ambitious, have a look at this one. You can set your objects on something like cloth. It gives you a chance to show off more skills with your tone, makes your picture more interesting, and shows that extra level of complexity that could get you the highest possible grade. So, good luck, and I can't wait to see how you all get on with this.